I wanted to talk about Move, John Africa, and on them because I was just talking to my wife the other day. That's like, Philly and Jersey lore. For those of y'all who don't know, Move, long story short, they still around today, but they not like they was back in the 70s and the 80s or whatever. They were basically Black anarchists, and they were all about living communal style and getting back kind of like what BP was talking about in the video that I dropped today about basically just that way
community based,
pretty much. Yeah. Long story short, they got into it with police a couple of times. A cop wound up getting shot in like 79 or something. Yep. And then things escalated to the point that in 85 they literally bombed West Philly and wound up killing 5 of them, 6 kids, and 11 people houses that had nothing to do with it. They wound up suing the city, finally got paid in 2005, all the people that wasn't affiliated with Move. But the joint was already like 2 hours long. So I said, I might just say that for another video. So I say it's not surprising. It's not a shock at all. Cause that's what policing is. I mean,
yeah, we can probably holler at Mike Africa and them.
I was just gonna say that the Move folks, they've been a big part of the Fight Toxic Prison stuff that we've done before, because they're really they were doing abolition work before it even became a mainstream thing. Like that's something that they've always been about. If you need to connect, we know Mike Africa and a bunch of folks, so they're with it.
They that's legendary around this way.
Ramona Africa was at one of our Fight Toxic Prison conversions, and then we have Mike Africa Jr. Mike Africa Jr. is really dope. He's also a hip hop artist and does some really good work. You connected with Mike before with hip hop and stuff before, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, if people have been around long enough on my channel, you can see where me and Mike rap together and stuff. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Back when we were actually in Pittsburgh,
they're part of our Pittsburgh conversions, and they came to the Gainesville one too.
And they came to Gainesville. We did me and a couple other folks did security for them because they still got to watch their back to this day. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we had a whole security unit that we set up to make sure that they were safe while they presented at the convergence. It's real. It's real. Like what happened to him was hella foul. Mike is one of the children that survived the situation, but multiple children lost their lives, and that is pretty bad. So
a bunch of houses in the whole neighborhood were leveled. The cops just dropped a bomb from a helicopter.
Exactly.
It was all the neighborhood
bombed a full U.S. a city. It was completely state sanctioned, and I think my only comment on that end of it is that's representative of what the state does in general. You see it specifically with Move right here in this one instance, but I think viewers should know. Move can literally be any black or brown town anywhere. The folks with Move were just some of the most vocal people about it. But don't get it twisted. This is literally what drone technology and all those other things that are available to policing right now will do today.
Yeah, it's always that state of exception that will always get called. That's the power. That's the true power of the state. It's that state of exception. Once something becomes untenable, they will literally just murder people, whether it's within their rule structure or not. Ultimately, the state form is the pressing interest for them, not some fictional rights that we say we have because it's got written on a piece of paper or whatever,
One of the things we got to consider is exactly the implications of the police as a whole. I think both FD and Little Bill were really hard on describing all the situations that we got going on with the law enforcement. And when we talk about what happened to Philly, that wasn't a new thing that happened. That was just one of the more recent ones. You know what I mean? And they're still dealing with repercussions from it, right? Ramona,
she had lifelong injuries,
lifelong injuries from it. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. I feel like Little Bill, you might have a little more to go in about this police stuff. You know?
Go ahead, man. Go in. We're here for it, man. Go in.
Shout out to Bill for letting me preempt them at the beginning of the video. I did. I watched it today. We hit a lot of the same points. But
I saw somebody mention Mumia. Mumia is still Mumia
still locked up.
Yep, another one of the homies that we work with.
Also, shout out to I guess Dr. Ball, because Dr. Ball has done a lot of work on the Free Mumia tip. who was in a Bill's joint.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's good shit. The thing, I mean, if I could jump in, the thing about the police and stuff after watching Bill's video and thinking about, I don't, Bill hit a really good point about how, like, and this is something I was thinking as I was finishing up mine. I don't know who the first one was. It might have been Big Joel, but like 4 or 5 big bread tube creators made anti-police videos, and no shade to them. It was relatively medium takes on the police, right? It was kind of like it was appropriate for their audiences, I think, because it was like, all right, here's why the police are bad, maybe. You know what I'm saying? And so then you get to me and Bill, we hit a lot of the same points, we hit a couple of different points, but it was much more explicit as to like why the police are bad for us and everybody. Not like bad at their jobs or do a wrong thing, but like explicitly the police are an explicit function of a social structure seeking to destroy Black, brown, queer, poor, etc. people. What Bill hit at the end was, what you gonna do with it after that? I love the point Bill made. John Lewis, who's maybe got 10K subs at this point, he did the video 6 months ago. It was everything you needed about understanding the fucked up situation with police and prisons. But John isn't around the way dude hasn't up until this point galvanized such a large audience. You read the comments, you realize just how deep into like a pro-police cult, as Bill put it, ideology like most people are. Like regular people that don't even fuck with the police are still deep into the cult. You know what I'm saying? And it's just a wild, almost daunting realization as to like how much propaganda has to be unpacked that we can all know of move. Like I knew, and I want to be clear, it was BP that helped fully pull me into abolition like years ago at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause I was medium, you know what I mean? I was like there, but like, whatever. And like, I knew all this stuff. I had been in the system and seen it fail regularly. Not to get into doomerism, because I'm not trying to do that, but it's something I want to put out there to the audience. Like, there's explicit work on shifting the ideology to make more work possible.
You know, I think it is. It's not enough people have direct experience with the system to keep it a buck. That's what it is. Not enough people have been arrested. Not enough people have been locked up. Not enough because not enough people are broke enough. He ain't broke or black or brown enough to actually encounter the police in that aspect. So all you know is Paw Patrol. You know what I mean? All you know is Law and Order and them going and getting the rapists and the murder. You don't know about, like I said in my joint, you don't know about catching a 6-month charge for literally a $2 train ticket. Like that's every single day. But you don't know about that because you're not put in a position, you know. And this is a point that BP had hit at in my video. There's a disconnect, you know what I mean? And that's one of the things that I want to hit at the end with mine is that, you know, this is what happens when rich kids are given the reins to the revolution. They lose the plot. That's where it starts, honestly.
Yeah.
The way that comes is a lot of people, especially because of the nature of these platforms and whatever, I do my best to check myself on this, because when you got a lot of people blowing smoke up your behind or whatever, it can make you get a big ego and make you feel like I'm the authority. I'm the one. I'm gonna lead y'all to the promised land. I'm Moses. You know, I saw God at the top of the mountain. You know what I mean? Like I got it because I got, you know, all the subscribers or whatever. But it's like, nah, fam, you ain't in the trenches. You ain't in the mud, you know what I mean? And I'm gonna keep it a buck. And I should have said this with the video. Well, honestly, I really couldn't care less about why people think I made the video. But following up on all, because I really didn't have any intention of doing that video until, an acquaintance, barely an acquaintance of mine, became a police. So this was basically this was my response to them. Like, bro, we've been telling you for the longest time. How do we got to lay this out to you? That's the point that I'm trying to get at. When I make this, it's coming from a personal place. You know what I mean? It's coming from a place of experience. And, you know, I think it's good that, you know, we have folks like who's on this platform right here. And again, this is no shade to, you know, any of the other creators or whatever. There's only so much insight you can give when you're disconnected from the issue, right? When you're disconnected from the problem. Like, I'm only going to talk so much on films issues because I'm not a film. All I know is what I've observed, what I've read, but I haven't lived through that. I don't know what it's like. We got to have enough humility to say, I ain't the one. This one over here will tell you what needs to be done right now and what you can do about it. You know what I mean? And so long as it's just a handful of folk like me, like Feet, like, you know, there's just a handful of folk that's doing that, and the vast majority of folk is saying, all right, here's why
my take.
Yeah, right, here is my take on why the police are not as great as you heard. We ain't gonna get nowhere. Cause what's the point? Cause what you doing? What you doing? You writing an essay? Who you writing an essay for? This ain't a college class. It's real life.
Yeah.
What purpose do you serve? So that's the thing that I'm getting at, is that we got to get to a place where we say, all right, it's cool that we making videos and whatnot, but you know, we got to funnel resources to the folks that's doing it, because we ain't all got the, like I said in the thing, I'm gonna keep it a buck. I ain't got the heart to do it right. I got kids. You know, I can't be going to jail at this point in my life. You know what I mean? I just can't. It's people.
I would say that's something BP is very big on, like content, and with like working with BP personally through like FTP and other things that we do together. Like I think BP has a really good model for doing that in terms of like it's a great thing that folks are like that y'all being able to create content, because I don't want to like understate what that means, because we've had some folks in the chat talk about like, all right, what can I do to participate in these things? Part of it is that political education and getting that right political education from folks who either have experienced that, as you were saying, Bill, a second ago, you going to the people who have experienced that and then helping them to highlight their stories and their voices. So it ain't just you talking about that. Like, you've got other folks, and you're coming at it from an angle where it's not just you giving like a college style lecture to people. You're going a deep dive. Because another thing that I would say like happens often is that like it is very easy to get inculcated with all this like propaganda stuff. Like that propaganda shit is like everywhere. Like I'm a teacher during the daytime. I've got kids here watching The Rookie in class. I'm like, nah, I have to put a hard stop to that shit. I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't even care like if kids ain't doing their work and stuff. But what you not gonna do? You not gonna watch this pro-policing shit in my class. Like, those are like the simple things. Are like, Mr. Thomas, I'm gonna learn how to like get around the system. I'm like, nah, kid, come to me after school.
I'm gonna change it from the inside.
Right. But that's what they be thinking. That's real, though. That's real.
Like, so it's important that they get like proper education from other sources too. But it's like, I would say you can't just have like that personal experience, although that personal connection is very important. But the work we need to do isn't going to just come from those people who have those personal connections. Because if that was the case, we don't have Black, queer, and trans folks who are doing the work. Like, and oftentimes I think that's one of the issues. So much of the groundwork falls on the shoulders of those people. Like that action being about that, like it falls on those people. But there are other things that folks can do too. Like what you were saying too, like funneling in the resources that we knew, like supporting the homie who's on the inside, like with like getting out for legal support. But it's also like a variety of different stuff. You got we've done like phone calls, we've done jail support, there's letter writing things, like there's a good amount of ways that like you can be about that abolitionist action and like countering police terror without like beyond just like what you see like on a screen. Like this is important. Having these conversations are good, and I think they're vital for our communities. But at the same time, like there's simple stuff you can do. Like there's simple shit you can do in your community every single day. Like I've told the kids in my school 1,000,000 times, never call the cops under any circumstances. If y'all got issues or something, don't even call like CPS and stuff, because none of those systems work. Like you can be an active person who's like, actively working against those things in your own space. Like that's what real abolition is about. It's about doing some of those little things.
Real talk. I mean, but I think one of the things we got to think about abolition too is like we got to understand what it is, right? What policing and the system is. It is the furthering of colonialism. Police, the system is the iron fist of colonialism. You know what I mean?
I think, BP, that's well said.
I think that's something we got to keep in mind at all times because, like, it isn't here to protect us, as Little Bill pointed out. It was fundamentally not built for that. And they even ruled multiple rulings in that favor. Like I said a couple of them, and I hope I'm the one to hit you the later too. But then Little Bill came with the first one they dropped was some wild stuff that I ain't never even heard about.
See, remember how I said the police's job is not actually to protect and serve the public's interest, but to maintain law and order even at the expense of the public? Well, according to the Supreme Court, that's not just me whistling Dixie for the sake of contrarianism. On the morning of March 16th, 1975, Carolyn Warren, Joan Taliaferro, and Miriam Douglas were all awoken out of their sleep when two men, later identified as Marvin Kent and James Morse, broke into the home and into the second floor room where Douglas was asleep with her daughter and raped her. Warren and Taliaferro heard the screams from their third floor room, which they shared, and called 911 reporting a burglary. The dispatcher called the incident in as a code 2, thus the incident was not given priority as an ongoing crime. 3 officers were called to the scene while a 4th went to investigate a possible suspect nearby. Warren and Taliaferro crawled to their window to await the police and observed the police cruiser riding past the front door of the residence without ever stopping. Followed a few minutes later by a second officer who at least got out the car but left the scene soon after knocking on the door and not receiving an answer. They continued hearing Douglas scream and called the police again, this time requesting immediate assistance. They were assured that an officer was en route. However, this time dispatch never even sent out a call. The 2 women, assuming the cops were already in the house, called down to Douglas, at which point Kent and Morse went upstairs and forced the 2 women at knife point to go to the second floor room where Douglas and her daughter still were. The 3 women then spent the next 14 hours being raped, beaten, and forced to commit sex acts with one another before ultimately being robbed by the 2 assailants. This incident resulted in 3 separate suits being filed by each of the women against the DC Metro Police alleging negligence because, I mean, duh. The trial judges ruled that the officers held no legal duty to provide individual protection to any of the 3 women and dismissed the complaints.
It's wild because the one time they love to use why they're here is based off the very first example that you gave. That's what they use is like, this is the most important reason why we're here. And they didn't give a damn.
All money is blood money. Cotton picking presidents hand bloody. All money is blood money. War for the gold, leaving children running. All money is blood money. Papa wicked murder, we find it funny. All money is blood money. Prison picking slave and they get to find it.
On the block, selling dope and diamond to get the gold.